What is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Oregon Postgame Show. I am Ben of Exploring with Ben and special guest.
I'm Sam.
Hey, Sam is here for once. Shocking. We're going to drop our stuff in the comment real quick here, and then we're going to get right into this. But Sam wanted to make a quick cameo. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and or Twitter. TikTok, too, if you have it. That's cool. We appreciate it. Sam is not going to stay, though, because, he didn't watch the game.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, anyways, just go dogs. All right.
Bye, Sam. Thanks for joining. All right, so let's adjust here and let's get into this because obviously Pac-12 Network game, which is fine. I mean, obviously we know not everyone has the Pac-12 Network. You got to get a special, deal like Sling or Fubo really to get it. I had to do it again. I might just keep Sling this time. It's actually reasonably priced, and for the sports packages, it's pretty decent. So, I mean, let's start off here. This weekend has done. I don't know why I'm wearing my glasses, but this weekend has been. I would say this weekend is defining the Pac-12 as the Pac-12 is starting to beat itself up, but there's the teams that are starting to separate themselves more from the other teams. Most notably, USC, UCLA, shockingly, and Oregon. Utah is still right there, but I think you have your top four, especially. So, of course, I've got all my notes right here in front of me because the game just finished. Had to look up final stats. And right here, as Tim says, ready to learn the in-depth plays of the game because they had to watch the updates. Exactly. Not everyone gets Pac-12 networks. It's not easy to find. You can find streams sometimes, but yeah, you just have to follow the updates and the highlights, and sometimes that's annoying. I mean, it is what it is, but we're going to go into it a bit. Of course, the final here, Oregon 49, Arizona 22, which take it what it is for that final score because really Oregon didn't try, especially like the beginning of the fourth quarter, the rest of the game. They really didn't try. Arizona got another touchdown. Cool. Nothing major. I will say the Arizona atmosphere at the beginning of the game was amazing. Key stats, something that was I didn't even know, and I'm just going off what the announcer said a couple times was that this was the first sellout for Arizona, like the Arizona Wildcats, the first time the stadium had been sold out in 7 years. So since 2015, I think it was against UCLA in like September of 2015. That is absolutely ridiculous that it has been 7 years since they have sold out that stadium. I mean, I kind of understand why, but at the same time, like, damn, that's a long time to not sell out your stadium. No matter, like, how bad you've been, but you've had ups and downs. Arizona has not been, like, garbage or anything for that long. They've had their ups and downs, but, I mean, Oregon knows it. It's like a curse to play at Arizona. We know what happens. Nothing good usually happens at Arizona for us. So pregame was really cool, though, on the Pac-12 because they had Jedd Fisch mic'd up. That was really cool. Jedd Fisch I said it before the beginning of the season. Jedd Fisch is building something at Arizona. Are they going to be great this year? No. Will they be much improved? Yes. But being at Arizona, that's scary. Because, again, we don't have a good history there. Not in the last 11 years. We have done terrible in the state of Arizona for the most part. So, but Jedd Fisch, he seems like a very personable, amazing guy. He's caring, it seems. He's always being positive to players. I expected him to get really hot on the sidelines during the game, but he was just like poised and like telling his players, hey, just do this, don't mess this up, don't. I mean, he was being really positive, and that's what you got to do when you're building a program. So credit to Arizona, one, for a great atmosphere, and Jed Fish for he just seems like he's got something going. Arizona, I think, has their guy for the next, foreseeable 3-4 years. I mean, however the program goes, that will depend on his future. But for right now, he seems to be doing what he needs to do to rebuild the program. But let's get into it. We see the final score here, and pretty much the main keys of the game that I had before this game even started was eliminate the big pass plays, which we'll get into here in a little bit when we talk about the breakdown. For Oregon, don't make mistakes, like whether the penalties, just dumb plays, missed assignments, missed tackles. No turnovers for Oregon. That would be a key one. Do not make the mistake there. And pressure Delora. Keep him in the pocket because he is mobile. He can move around, extend plays, and that's when his receivers get open, just like with any team. But he's really good at it, and they have really good receivers. I mean, you just look at I have it here somewhere here. There's a guy Crowling, for instance. That guy is an amazing receiver. He's always open. He can get the contested catches. And I have the notes here. Well, somewhere I do. Like last week, he had just a ridiculous amount of yards last week. I mean, granted, it was Colorado. And Colorado, we all know what Colorado is this year. They're not good at all. So one of the big takeaways this week was don't make mistakes like penalties, because last week, stat that was shown on the screen was Oregon had 14 penalties for 135 yards. That's ridiculous. I knew there was a lot of pre-snap penalties, especially false starts, which was very weird. Being at home for our O-line, that was really weird. So this week, cleaned up quite a bit. I think we had 6 for about 40 yards, maybe 45. Nothing crazy. A lot better. And this is on the road. So the lineups, it was good to see Flo back in the lineup. He didn't play last week. He was in the whole game today. Really good. He was amped up. Like, they were showing him on camera. He was wild-eyed. He was in it. So that's really good to see. He's got like the whole neck brace going on for some extra protection. Tonight for the O-line, the only other notable actual out was Jones on our O-line. He was out tonight, but that meant Connerly was getting in a lot, and he held his own. Held his own completely. I mean, again, the Oregon O-line, as of the beginning of this game, had only given one technical sack the entire season so far. And even that, the announcer said it was questionable, which I said last week too. I was like, I don't even really consider that a sack. Statistically it is, but I don't even consider it. Tonight, no sacks, minimal pressure, and when there was, Nix moved out of the pocket. So again, the O-line definitely is holding up extremely, extremely well. Notes for the game here, just before we go into the drive chart, because the drive chart, I mean, really by mid-third quarter, I kind of just stopped counting the drive chart, because at that point we weren't even really trying. We're just kind of burning clock and out there. And then by the fourth quarter, especially, it was just kind of garbage time for the Ducks anyways. Arizona got a late touchdown. That's fine. But some of the key notes of the game were, one, the big thing was, again, like we said, eliminate big pass plays. And Arizona came out and they dropped some bombs. I mean, they did. They hit some big pass plays. And that was really concerning immediately, like, uh-oh. But one thing that the team did really well was gang tackling. Like the linebackers, the corners, safeties, they attacked the ball. They attacked the ball carrier, and they did not allow much after the catch for the most part. Like there were some missed tackles, but nothing crazy. They showed up when they needed to, and they stopped the drives. That was key. At the end of the half, right before the end of the half, defense got a little sloppy, and there was a holding penalty. I believe it was at the end of the half. There was a holding penalty that allowed. It was a holding penalty or offsides. I'm trying to remember right now. I just have a penalty written down, and that allowed Arizona to re-kick a field goal, which, I mean, whatever. It was kind of the end of the half. We actually kind of screwed that up because they missed the field goal, but Lanning had tried to ice the kicker. So whether the timeout had caused that or not, I don't know. But yeah, it happens, One thing that really caught us off guard a little bit tonight was, and it was expected because Arizona does this, is they ran up tempo. So when they didn't run the up tempo, we actually matched up fine. It was when they ran up tempo, we got a little caught off guard, maybe a little out of place, step behind some of the receivers, stuff like that. But one thing that in the game that as the game progresses, we really made them one-dimensional. Like they had to just pass the ball. They could not run the ball, like for the most part at all. They couldn't do it. So that was a huge credit to the defense, which really set Arizona in a bad place because then we knew what to expect. And I mean, it's not like we shut them down passing, of course. I mean, you can't do that. They have great receivers. Jaden Delore is a very decent quarterback. And yeah, so it happens. It's been noticed throughout the season, but I literally just wrote down Oregon's screen passes are deadly. If they are on, those Oregon screen passes are just, those linemen are getting out and back blocking against people and just blowing people up on the line, giving just a wide open alley. And Oregon's not calling a ton of screens. They kind of like the swings or the short outs. But the actual screen passes, those are deadly. The O linemen are just blowing people up. Yeah, every touchdown tonight for Oregon was a rush touchdown. That is almost unheard of. They did try for one pass touchdown. It got broken up, but then they ended up getting a rushing touchdown. And again, the run defense was solid for the most part. They gave up like two really big run plays of like 50 yards, one for a touchdown and one got stopped. But that was a little bit like Arizona kind of caught us off guard because I think we were expecting pass. They ran. So not great, but yeah, we should clean that up, definitely. But the end result of it didn't change anything, but we definitely need to clean that up. So let me see what we got. We got the chat here going. Yeah, that's fair, Randy. I would say that was one of the reasons why this game was really kind of the nerve. It had me nervous when I saw the schedule this year because it was like, we don't do well in Arizona. In the state of Arizona, the Ducks do not play well, generally. Not for a while anyways. And seeing Arizona improve, the Wildcats, just made you that much more hesitant. But tonight, the Ducks came out, did what they needed to do, and that's all that matters. Because, again, we look at this score drive. We're going to look at the offense real fast. I'm going to put it up. The score drive. So the first offensive drive, Arizona took the ball first, which I kind of don't blame them. People said Oregon should do it first and set a tone. I don't blame Arizona for doing it either because they said, we got to come out, we got to do our thing and show who we are. Fair enough. But so Oregon's first offensive drive was a punt. It wasn't great, kind of testing the waters. Second drive, immediately that rushing offense. Again, Oregon has the best rushing offense in the conference. Arizona has the second to worst rushing defense in the conference. So you pretty much saw exactly what should happen. And immediately Whittington rushed for a 55-yard touchdown. It was he made an amazing cut and just outran everyone. Third drive, touchdown, quarterback sneak by Bo Nix. Bo Nix has been deadly. I mean, inside like the 3-4 yard line and closer, he's been deadly with those QB sneaks. Kind of like they're just calling it rushes, but they're just quarterback sneaks. That was after, I believe, that he had that deep pass to Hudson for 42 yards, which Hudson probably should have had the touchdown himself, but the ball was a little overthrown. He had to reach for it, made an amazing grab, twist his body to maintain the catch at like the 2 yard line. It was phenomenal. Then we had the fourth drive. Matavao did a rush touchdown to the outside, kind of like a jet sweep. Well, unorthodox, but hey, it works. Fifth drive, touchdown for James before the half. So at halftime, after those drives, halftime was already 28-13 at halftime for the Ducks, which, again, the atmosphere in Arizona was amazing. But really, by basically the end of the first quarter, it was 21-3 Oregon. And you felt that stadium kind of go quiet, like immediately by the end of the first quarter to early second quarter. They just kind of went, uh-oh. And I think, just kind of saw how the game was going with those couple long rushes we had. They were not – they kind of lost momentum at that point, I think. Coming out of the half – again, Franklin, he continues to separate himself. Big catch over the middle. Nix, another keeper for touchdown. We had touchdown for Bucky for 20 yards. We had Nix for a 25-yard run touchdown. I mean, the rushing attack of this team between the three – you have to have dollars in there. But Whittington, Irving, and Nix, those three are all, like, elusive. They run hard, even Nix. But Nix is being smart with the ball, not trying to take too many hits, and making good decisions. That's the thing. And again, one of the keys of tonight was no turnovers. No turnovers. That's one of the things that's going to keep this offense rolling. That's one of the big differences. And that's why, we ended up in the state we are. The defense, I'm not going to say the defense was like lights out. It was not lights out by the defense. They gave up some big explosive plays about 3 or 4 times, especially the 2 runs, 2 or 3 really big passes, but for the most part contained Arizona really well because we all knew, I think, coming into the season, the secondary was the question mark. We didn't know how they would hold up. And they held up pretty well. You can't hold a team completely down. So the point is they actually held them in check. And so I'm not going to rant about a couple things like that too much. Immediately the first play of the game, Sewell got immediate pressure on DeLaura, which was one of the things. We need to pressure him, keep him in the pocket, contain him. Then we gave up a 37-yard bomb to Cowing, which he's their go-to. That guy is like almost unstoppable. Then we had the unforced fumble where it was just a mesh read issue between DeLaura and the running back at like the 10-yard line, and we recovered it for our first offensive possession. Bridges had a holding call. Manning had a great tackle in the second drive for Arizona that caused had to force a field goal. Johnson was all over the place. There was a sack for Bassa. one of the worst things there was is that Manning got ejected for targeting in the first half. I mean, I saw the play. There was a tip pass, kind of like a swing route, tipped, went over the receiver. Manning went to tackle him, but kind of caught him in the side of the head area. It's going to happen. So it was unfortunate, but it was kind of weird because it was a long delay before replay wanted to take a look at it. So it's unfortunate, but it happens. He got to stay on the sideline, talk to the other guys, coach him up, and also cheer on his team. So that's all that matters. But so again, the first series for the defense were a fumble recovery for an unforced fumble, a field goal. Then they had a punt. They did allow that huge 52-yard rush touchdown. That was unfortunate. They allowed that other big rush that set up for the field goal at the end of the half. Okay. Then we had a tip for an interception, sack and a forced fumble, which we recovered, and then allowed a field goal. And then we allowed a touchdown in the fourth. Kind of in what I call garbage time. I don't know if this is to me. I'm guessing that's a response to that. What we have in the chat here really quickly. Whooped by UCLA this year. Well, we're about to talk about that a little bit here in just a little bit. I mean, this game was pretty much over mid-third quarter. At that point, really, Oregon just had to sit back and kind of relax and just not screw it up. I mean, really, if you want to be realistic. But this will be an interesting one coming up because we all know, well, I don't want to say we all know, but some of the things is that next week is Oregon's bye week. Well, next week is also UCLA's bye week. So it will be interesting because both teams are going to come off byes, but UCLA has to go to Oregon. UCLA has not played on the road this year. That is one of the bigger differences. Oregon's now played twice. Well, 3 times technically. Yeah, 3 times. Because we had Georgia, Wazoo, and now Arizona. So it will be interesting to see how UCLA performs on the road. That's going to be a big, I don't want to say a question mark, but it's going to be interesting to see, especially because Autzen will be packed. I would not be surprised if this is it's going to be a top 15 matchup, but you could be looking at like say number 10 versus number like 12 or 13 type of matchup. That could be a game day type of thing at Autzen. I'm not projecting that. I'm just saying it could be because, again, both teams are off next week. We don't know what happened with other teams. It will be very interesting to see. It's going to be an amazing atmosphere no matter what. But also going into that game, which I wasn't trying to go into that early, but the chat is kind of I don't want to say exploded here, but yeah, they're getting on me. The good thing for Oregon is Manning will be back next week not next week, but the following week, the next game for the UCLA game because he got ejected in the second quarter for the targeting, so he won't miss any of the UCLA games, so he'll be back full on. So that's good because that would be. I mean, our other guys showed up big. Florence stepped in and he had no issues in the secondary, really. I mean, I think he had the issues you expect kind of a first-year player to do. But if we go back into the final stats here, which, again, we have the final stats of the game. Oregon had 580 yards of total offense. Again, really good. Nothing crazy, but really good. Nix was 20 of 25 for 265 yards, 8 rush for 70 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Nix is lighting it up on the ground. I mean, we have great running backs, but Nix is making all the decisions all the right reads for the most part and just doing his thing. And again, no turnovers. So if we want to go back to one of the comments earlier here, I have to 100% agree. And I argued this last week. I don't want to say he's left, like gone, but everything he's doing now is working and he's making good decisions. So I think we need to stop I hope Bad Bo doesn't show up. Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that. He's making all good decisions and it's working. He's being efficient, effective. He's putting up great yards, great percentage, great QBRs, and rushing yards. So, yeah, I think we can just lay that to rest at this point. But going for there, Irving, he didn't really have a crazy day. He ran really hard, but he only had 12 for 67 yards and a touchdown. Whittington, 6 for 92 yards and a touchdown. The defense did give up 356 yards. Again, not crazy, but not great, but not bad. Not bad by any means, especially when we were afraid about that deep passing game. Again, we did get at least we got a couple sacks, and then we had the 3 takeaways. We had 2 forced fumbles and a pick. So really good on the takeaway situation. And again, we didn't give the ball away. So that is the key things to this game is that Oregon, for the most part, did not make mistakes. And again, the penalties got cleaned up, especially from last week, because last week was absolutely ridiculous. Again, it was like, what did I say? It was 14 penalties for like 135 yards last week. Absolutely ridiculous. And at home. So on the road today to clean that up, dramatically, like say 6 for 45, something like that. Much better. Much, much better. Yeah. So this game, I think it went exactly as we expected it to and hoped it would. Kind of get the monkey off our back, especially playing at Arizona, because again, the desert is not kind to us. I just call it a curse. But yeah, so Oregon now remains relatively healthy. Again, flows back. We had Jones out on the O-line. They didn't really specify why, but that was it. And then Manny was ejected. So everyone, I think, should be back fine after this bye week to get rested up. The ejection won't hurt Manning. He'll be back for UCLA, full game, no problems. Yeah, it's going to be a big game. There's no underestimating what UCLA is doing. This is not a preview of that game by any means. Next week, again, Oregon is on a bye. So if I need to do a preview, I can, but there are other people for Oregon that can do the preview with here on the Voice of College Football with Mark. But it will be a big game. Again, we're both going into buys. I could see us both being, like I said, it's going to be a top 15 matchup no matter what. But you could see, depending on what happens, especially next week or with the rankings this week, you could be looking at 10 versus 12, 9 versus 11, maybe. We don't know what the rankings are going to be like. Would I be shocked by that? No. But it could be a game day situation or a big noon. Definitely. But I think it would probably become a night game. Not 100% sure on that. I'm just speculating. I haven't even been following what the Heisman race is. But, definitely with the potential of what the UCLA-Oregon game could look like, if Oregon were to win that game and Nix puts up, again, even like today, a 20 for 25 for 265 and his rushing stats with a couple touchdowns, yeah, I could definitely see him at least getting in the top 5 talk conversation. I don't see why not. At this point, everything he's done so far has been good. Again, the offense goes as he goes at this point. I think that's pretty clear. I don't think there's a question about that. Because every time, and again, this is no offense to Thompson. Every time you put Thompson in, it's just run the ball. He might throw a couple times, and then he throws an interception. Now, is that because he's behind some of the second team guys? I don't know. But it just never turns out good. So even tonight, they let him throw it a few times, but they just ran the ball to kill clock. They didn't need to do anything more. But yeah, there's not a whole lot in this game to talk about to a degree. And again, as we can see, this is exactly what we needed to do. Went in, got out of there, and move on. And again, final stats though, yeah, Oregon for the second time this season passed our average, which was in the 270s, I think, per rushing per game. Last week we had like 350. This week we went over 300 rushing yards. Again, against Arizona, who has one of the worst rush defenses in the conference. Doesn't necessarily say a lot, but I think that says a lot. That just shows our O-line they are the best in the conference. I'm not even going to try to argue with that or comment on that because I think Oregon is the best offensive line in the conference, most experienced, and even with Connerly coming in, he's holding his own as a true freshman. He's already holding up to that 5-star label that he had coming out. So I don't think we have to be concerned about that or worry about it. But yeah, Oregon takes care of business in the desert. And again, it's a perfect time for a bye week right in the middle of the season. We are going in, 5-1, and it's a great time just to let everyone rest, heal up, and prepare. But equally so, UCLA has the same advantage. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup, I think. You're going to have, Chip returning home, so to say, and Lanning facing Chip. It's going to be interesting. So you're going to have Dillingham versus Chip's mind offensively. It's going to be a fun game for sure. So I will maybe do a preview next weekend, but we'll see. Again, Mark has his own guys, other guys from the 247 Sports and 503 Sports Chat who do a phenomenal job on their own right, in their own rights, previewing games, looking at the players. They have amazing. If you don't know who they are, you've never seen them, go ahead and follow them. They do a lot of previews here on Mark's channel, here at the Voice of College Football and the Oregon Ducks. Great guys. So we're going to leave this pretty short and sweet. It's already late. I know so many people on the Pacific Coast. I'm back in Central Time. It's already late. This game was exactly what we wanted it to be, hoped it would be. I do want to see the defense just not give up these big explosive plays, but it is going to happen. No team is perfect, especially under a new system, a new coordinator, and against an offense like Arizona that is actually really good. They are really good. So hopefully they'll clean that up, but there were some things that were corrected this week. And again, it's still a learning process. The staff is still establishing things tonight, this season, next week, the next week. So the bye week's coming at a great time. And we're going to get a real big challenge coming up in 2 weeks with UCLA at home. And that's the one thing that's good. Everything for us, the big challenges are at home this year. So that's a huge plus for us. But it'll be fun, and we're going to see what happens. But, again, I'm Ben from Exploring with Ben and Sam. So I appreciate everyone here spending your evening here on the post game. It was short and sweet. Not a whole lot to talk about. The team did what they needed to do. And, again, you can follow us here in the chat, in the description of the video. I appreciate you guys being here. Maybe I'll see you next weekend. If not, I'll probably see you in 2 weeks for the post game of UCLA at Oregon as necessary. So thank you all very much. Please hit that like and subscribe. Helps to grow the channel. Supports Mark a lot. and we appreciate the platform that we have here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you, guys.